Surveillance cameras, if the recording is being done by a security camera, it's generally legal as long as the camera is positioned in a way that captures areas visible from the public or common spaces. However, if the camera is aimed directly into private areas of your yard where you expect privacy, like through a window or into a secluded area, that could be problematic. If you feel that your neighbor's recording is violating your privacy, or is being done in a harassing manner, you may want to consult with a legal professional to explore your options. 2. Consent. New Jersey is a one-party consent state when it comes to recording conversations. This means that as long as one person involved in the conversation consents to the recording, it is legal. However, if your neighbor is recording you without any conversation or interaction, and you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in that part of your yard, the recording could potentially violate privacy laws. In New Jersey, the legality of your neighbor recording you in your yard depends on various factors, including the context and the nature of the recording. Here are some key points. 1. Expectation of privacy. In general, people have a reasonable expectation of privacy in places where they are not visible to the public, such as inside their homes. However, when you are in your yard, particularly if it is visible from a public space or neighboring property, your expectation of privacy may be lower. Whether a neighbor can record your backyard depends on state laws and the circumstances. In general, it's legal for a neighbor to have security cameras on their property for security purposes, as long as they're not in a private place or violate any laws. However, if the cameras are in a place where you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, like your backyard or through a window, they could be considered an invasion of privacy and therefore illegal. This includes audio recordings, as well as video surveillance. In some states, visual recording is allowed but audio recording is not, while others may have criminal or civil penalties for all forms of recording. 3. Harassment or stalking. If the recording is being done in a way that constitutes harassment or stalking, it could be illegal. Persistent and intrusive recording could be considered harassment, which is against the law. 4. Surveillance cameras. If the recording is being done by a security camera, it's generally legal as long as the camera is positioned in a way that captures areas visible from the public or common spaces. However, if the camera is aimed directly into private areas of your yard where you expect privacy, like through a window or into a secluded area, that could be problematic. 2. Document the defamatory statements, collect evidence, gather all written, recorded, or spoken statements that you believe are defamatory. This could include social media posts, emails, text messages, or witness statements, record context. Document the context in which the statements were made, including the date, time, place, and any potential witnesses. 3. Identify the source, determine who made the defamatory statements. Sometimes this is straightforward, but in cases of anonymous defamation, you may need to investigate further. If the defamation is online, you might need to request information from the platform where the statements were made to identify the individual. Investigating defamation of character involves several steps to gather evidence, identify the source, and assess the potential for legal action. Here's how you might approach it. 1. Understand the elements of defamation. Defamation involves a false statement presented as a fact that causes harm to someone's reputation. Libel is written defamation, and slander is spoken defamation. To prove defamation, you must generally demonstrate, a false statement was made, the statement was communicated to a third party, the statement caused damage to your reputation, the statement was made with negligence or malice. 6. Consult with a lawyer, legal analysis. A lawyer can help assess whether the statements meet the legal criteria for defamation and advise on the strength of your case. Cease and desist. Your lawyer may send a cease and desist letter to the person responsible, demanding that they stop making defamatory statements. Consider litigation. If the case is strong, your lawyer may advise filing a lawsuit for defamation. 7. Legal action, if necessary. File a lawsuit. If the situation warrants it, you can file a defamation lawsuit seeking damages. The legal process will involve presenting your evidence and potentially going to trial. Settlement. Often, defamation cases are settled out of court if the evidence is strong. $ If your neighbor calls animal control on you without a valid reason and you're not doing anything wrong. Here's what typically happens and how you can handle the situation. 1. Animal control visit, initial investigation. When animal control receives a complaint, they are typically required to investigate. This may involve visiting your property to check on the welfare of your animals and ensure that you are complying with local laws and regulations. Interaction with the officer. The officer will likely ask to see your animals and may inquire about their living conditions, health, and how they are cared for. If you are not doing anything wrong, the officer will usually note that everything is in order. 8. Ongoing monitoring, continue to monitor the situation to ensure that defamatory statements cease and any damage to your reputation is addressed. Investigating defamation can be complex, especially in cases involving anonymous sources or widespread distribution, like on social media. Engaging a legal professional early in the process can help ensure that you approach the situation effectively. 4. Assess the impact, demonstrate harm. Show how the defamatory statements have harmed your reputation, personally or professionally. This might include lost business opportunities, emotional distress, or damage to relationships. Consider witnesses. Identify anyone who might have been influenced by the defamatory statements and can testify to the harm caused. 5. Gather supporting evidence, character evidence. Gather evidence of your good reputation before the defamatory statements were made, such as testimonials, reviews, or professional accomplishments, expert opinions. In some cases, expert testimony may be necessary to demonstrate the damage caused by the defamation. If your neighbor writes complaints about you without your knowledge, several things could happen depending on the nature of the complaints and where they are directed. Here's how such a situation might unfold and what you can do. 1. Complaints to a homeowners association, HOA, or property management, internal review. If the complaints are made to an HOA or property management company, they may review the complaints and determine if they warrant action. Typically, they will investigate to see if the complaints have merit. Notification. If the HOA or management finds the complaints valid, they will usually notify you in writing. This notice might include details of the complaint, any relevant community rules or bylaws you allegedly violated, and what actions you need to take. Response opportunity. Most HOAs or management companies will give you an opportunity to respond to the complaint or dispute it. This is your chance to explain your side of the story or correct any misunderstandings. 6. Legal recourse, consult an attorney. If the false reports are persistent and you feel that your neighbor is deliberately trying to cause trouble, consult with an attorney. You may have legal options to address the situation, including filing a harassment claim or seeking a restraining order. In most cases, a single unfounded complaint won't have serious consequences for you if you're not doing anything wrong. However, it's important to handle the situation calmly and responsibly to prevent escalation. 5. Future complaints, be prepared. Continue to care for your animals in accordance with the law, keeping their environment clean and safe. You will be prepared to show that you are in compliance. Communicate if possible. Try to communicate with your neighbor to understand their concerns and explain your perspective. Sometimes, misunderstandings can be resolved with a simple conversation. 4. Handling false reports, notify the authorities. If you believe the complaint was made maliciously or repeatedly without cause, you can inform the animal control officer. They may take note of the pattern, especially if there are repeated unfounded complaints from the same person. Harassment. If the false complaints continue and become a form of harassment, you may have grounds to take legal action against your neighbor. In some cases, repeated false reporting can be considered harassment or even abuse of public services. Mediation. If the relationship with your neighbor is strained, consider mediation to resolve any underlying issues. This can sometimes prevent future conflicts. 5. Legal recourse, consult an attorney. If you believe the complaints are baseless, malicious, or part of a pattern of harassment, you might want to consult an attorney. They can advise you on your rights and potential legal actions you can take against the neighbor. File a defamation claim. In extreme cases, if the complaints are false and have caused you harm, such as damage to your reputation or financial loss, you may have grounds to file a defamation lawsuit against the neighbor. In many cases, complaints are part of community living, and they can often be resolved amicably if addressed early. However, if you find yourself in a situation where complaints are being made without your knowledge, or for no valid reason, taking the steps above can help you manage the situation effectively. Your neighbor is spying on you with drones, particularly if they're a retired police officer. This situation can be concerning and may raise legal and privacy issues. Here's how you might handle the situation. Privacy shields. Consider installing privacy screens, fences, or landscaping to block the drone's view into your private spaces. While this may not stop the drone completely, it can help limit what it can capture. FAA regulations. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has regulations on drone usage. For instance, drones are not allowed to fly over people or moving vehicles without permission, and there are restrictions on flying drones near private property. State laws. New Jersey, like many states, has specific laws regarding the use of drones. Using a drone to harass or spy on someone could be illegal under state law. FAA regulations. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has regulations on drone usage. For instance, drones are not allowed to fly over people or moving vehicles without permission, and there are restrictions on flying drones near private property. State laws. New Jersey, like many states, has specific laws regarding the use of drones. Using a drone to harass or spy on someone could be illegal under state law. Legal action. If the behavior continues, you may need to consult an attorney. You could potentially file for a restraining order or take other legal action to protect your privacy and property rights. 4. Report the behavior. Contact local authorities. Report the spying to local law enforcement. Given that the neighbor is a retired police officer, it's important to ensure the matter is handled professionally and impartially. Provide them with your documentation and any evidence you've collected. FAA reporting. If the drone is being used in a way that violates FAA regulations, you can report the activity to the FAA. They take drone misuse seriously and may investigate the situation. 2. Documentation. Keep records. It's a good idea to document the visit. Take note of the officer's name, the time and date of the visit, and what was discussed. This can be helpful if there are future complaints. Ask for a report. You can ask the officer if a report will be filed and request a copy for your records. 3. Outcome of the investigation. No violations found. If animal control finds no issues, they will likely close the case with no further action. You will not be penalized if you are in compliance with all relevant laws. Education. Sometimes, even if there are no violations, the officer might provide recommendations or educational materials on proper animal care, which is standard procedure. 6. Consider the context. Intent. Consider whether the neighbor's actions might have some innocent explanation, such as using the drone for recreational purposes. However, even if that's the case, they should respect your privacy. Retired officer. If your neighbor is a retired police officer, they should be aware of privacy laws. If they persist in the behavior, it may be worth mentioning this when reporting the situation to authorities. One. Understand the legal issues? Invasion of privacy. Using a drone to observe or record someone without their consent can constitute an invasion of privacy, especially if the drone is capturing images or videos of areas where you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, such as inside your home or in a fenced backyard. 4. What you can do. Stay informed if you suspect complaints are being made, but you haven't received any notifications. Try to stay informed by checking with your HOA, landlord, or any relevant local authorities. Open communication. If you have a reasonably good relationship with your neighbor, you might try to have an open conversation to address any potential issues directly. Sometimes, complaints rise from misunderstandings that can be resolved with communication. Monitor your behavior. Ensure that you are complying with all local laws, community rules, or lease agreements. This helps you avoid potential issues and makes it easier to defend yourself if a complaint is made. Document everything. Keep records of any interactions with your neighbor or relevant authorities. Documenting your behavior and any communications can be crucial if a dispute escalates. 3. Complaints to other entities, e.g., employers, social services, third-party review. If complaints are made to entities like your employer or social services, they will likely conduct their own review or investigation. These organizations are usually required to protect your confidentiality, and you may not be informed of the complaint unless it leads to an official action. Confidentiality concerns. If the complaints involve sensitive or personal matters, there may be confidentiality rules that limit how much information is shared with you. 7. Seek mediation. Mediation. 7. Seek mediation. Mediation services. If direct communication or legal action seems too confrontational, consider mediation. A neutral third party can help facilitate a discussion to resolve the issue without escalating tensions. 5. Install countermeasures. Security cameras. Installing security cameras on your property can help document any inappropriate drone activity. Make sure your cameras cover areas where the drone is likely to fly, such as your backyard or near windows. Drone jammers. While drone jammers can be effective, they are generally illegal for personal use under U.S. federal law because they interfere with communications. Instead, focus on legal methods to address the issue. 2. Document the incidents. Keep records. Document each instance when you notice the drone flying near or over your property. Note the date, time, and any other relevant details, such as whether the drone appeared to be filming or hovering for an extended period. Take photos or videos if possible. Take photos or videos of the drone when it's near your property. This can serve as evidence if you need to report the behavior. 3. Complaints to other entities, e.g., employers, social services, third-party review. If complaints are made to entities like your employer or social services, they will likely conduct their own review or investigation. These organizations are usually required to protect your confidentiality, and you may not be informed of the complaint unless it leads to an official action. Confidentiality concerns. If the complaints involve sensitive or personal matters, there may be confidentiality rules that limit how much information is shared with you. 3. Confront the neighbor if safe. Direct conversation. If you feel comfortable and safe, you might consider speaking to your neighbor directly. Express your concerns about privacy, and ask them to stop using the drone in a way that invades your privacy. Written request. If you prefer not to speak directly, you could send a polite, but firm written request asking them to stop flying the drone over your property. 8. Follow up. Monitor the situation. After taking these steps, keep an eye on whether the behavior stops. Continue to document any incidents in case you need to take further action. Stay informed. Keep yourself informed about any new drone-related laws or ordinances in your area that could affect your rights. Dealing with a neighbor using a drone to spy on you can be stressful, but by taking these steps, you can protect your privacy and address the situation legally and effectively. 2. Complaints to local authorities. Investigation. If the complaints are directed to local authorities, like the police, zoning board, or animal control, they may investigate depending on the nature of the complaint. No immediate notification. In some cases, you may not be informed right away that a complaint has been made, especially if the authorities find it to be baseless or decide not to take any action. Notification upon action. If the authorities do decide to take action, you would typically be notified through an official notice, such as a warning, citation, or request for a meeting to discuss the issue. 1. Reporting unsafe drone operations. The FAA has an online drone safety reporting system where you can report unsafe drone operations. This includes situations where a drone is flown in a way that violates FAA regulations, such as flying over people, flying near airports, or flying in restricted airspace. Website. You can report unsafe drone operations via the FAA's Drone Zone website under the Report Unsafe Drone Operations section. If you need to report inappropriate or illegal drone activity to the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, you can use the following methods. 2. Local FAA office. You can also report the issue to your local FAA Flight Standards District Office, FSDO. The FSDO handles local aviation concerns and can take action on reports of unsafe or illegal drone use. To find your local FSDO, visit the FAA FSDO locator. 3. Law Enforcement Assistance Program LEAP. If you believe the drone is being used for criminal activity or poses an immediate threat to public safety, you can report it to your local law enforcement. The FAA's Law Enforcement Assistance Program, LEAP, provides guidance to law enforcement on how to handle such situations, and they may coordinate with the FAA as needed. 4. FAA Hotline. For more serious or ongoing issues, you can also contact the FAA's Aviation Safety Hotline at 1-866-835-5322. This hotline allows you to report safety concerns related to drones. 5. Privacy concerns. If your concerns are primarily about privacy, it's important to note that the FAA does not handle privacy issues directly, as they are typically governed by state and local laws. However, you can still report any unsafe operations related to privacy intrusions to the FAA, and they may coordinate with local law enforcement if necessary. By using these reporting methods, you can ensure that your concerns are properly addressed by the appropriate authorities. The legality of a retired police officer, or any individual installing cameras on public roads and areas depends on several factors, including who owns the property where the cameras are installed, what the cameras are recording, and whether there are local laws or regulations governing surveillance. 1. Public versus private property. Public property. In most places, installing surveillance cameras on public property, such as roads, sidewalks, or public parks, by a private individual is generally not allowed. Public roads and spaces are typically under the jurisdiction of the local government, and only authorized entities, like law enforcement or city officials, can install cameras there. 3. Local laws and ordinances. Some localities may have specific laws or ordinances regarding the installation of surveillance cameras, especially if they are pointed at public areas or neighboring properties. These laws can vary widely, so it's essential to check local regulations. In some places, even if the cameras are on private property, they might be subject to restrictions if they are used in a way that could be considered harassment or invasion of privacy. Private property. If the cameras are installed on private property, e.g., the retired cop's own property, but they capture footage of public roads or areas visible from the property, this is usually legal. Property owners have the right to install cameras on their property as long as they don't violate others' privacy rights, e.g., by recording inside homes or private spaces. 2. Right to record public spaces. In general, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy in public spaces, so recording public areas like streets, sidewalks, or parks is usually legal. This means that if a camera is installed on private property but records a public area, it is often within legal bounds. Traffic and security cameras. Authorized government agencies frequently install cameras to monitor traffic, public safety, and security in public spaces. Private individuals generally do not have the authority to install such cameras on public infrastructure. 4. Privacy concerns. Invasion of privacy. While recording public spaces is generally legal, using cameras to deliberately monitor or harass individuals could potentially lead to legal issues, especially if the cameras are used in a way that invades someone's reasonable expectation of privacy. Nuisance or harassment. If the camera placement is intended to harass or cause discomfort to neighbors, it might be considered a nuisance, and legal action could be taken to have the cameras removed or repositioned. 5. Law enforcement involvement. If the individual installing the cameras is a retired police officer, it's important to clarify whether they are doing so in a personal capacity or as part of a neighborhood watch or similar community program. If they are acting in an official capacity, even as a volunteer, they might need authorization from local authorities. 6. What you can do. Document and inquire. If you believe the cameras are illegal or invasive, document their location and coverage area. You may want to ask the retired officer about the purpose of the cameras, as there could be a legitimate reason for their installation. Contact local authorities if you're concerned that the cameras are infringing on your privacy or have been installed unlawfully. You can contact local law enforcement or your city's public works department to inquire about the legality of the installations. Consult legal advice. If the situation escalates or you believe the cameras are being used to harass or monitor you unlawfully, consider seeking legal advice to understand your rights and possible actions. Someone in a car starts harassing you for no reason. Here are steps you should consider taking. 1. Stay calm and safe. Do not engage with the harasser. Try to keep your distance and avoid confrontation. In summary, while there is generally no expectation of privacy in public spaces, unauthorized installation of cameras on public property is usually illegal. However, if the cameras are on private property and focused on public areas, they are often within legal limits. Local laws and ordinances, as well as the intended use of the cameras, will play a significant role in determining the legality. 4. Call the authorities. Report the harassment to the police immediately. Provide them with all the details you have gathered, including the location, time, and any information about the harasser and their vehicle. 5. Seek help. If you are in a public place, seek assistance from others around you. The presence of other people can sometimes deter further harassment. 6. Follow up. After reporting the incident, follow up with the authorities to ensure that they are investigating the matter. If a police officer pulls you over and you believe it's for no reason, here's what you should do. 1. Stay calm and compliant. Pull over safely to the side of the road. Turn off your engine, roll down your window, and keep your hands visible on the steering wheel. Stay calm and polite. 2. Ask for the reason. When the officer approaches, you can calmly ask why you were pulled over. It's within your rights to know the reason for the stop. Provide necessary documents. 3. Provide necessary documents. If asked, provide your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Do so calmly and slowly, informing the officer of your actions before reaching for your documents. 4. Do not argue. Even if you feel the stop is unjustified, do not argue with the officer on the spot. Remain polite and cooperative. If you believe your rights were violated, there are other ways to address it later. 2. Document the incident if possible. Safely record the harasser's license plate number, the make and model of the car, and any distinguishing features of the vehicle or person. If you have a phone, consider recording video or taking photos if it's safe to do so. 3. Do not lead them to your home. If you are driving, do not go directly to your home or a familiar place. Instead, head to a public area where there are other people, such as a police station, fire station, or busy shopping center. Five. Take note of details if you feel the stop was unjustified. Make a mental note of details, such as the officer's name, badge number, the patrol car number, and the time and location of the stop. If safe, you can also record the interaction. 6. Stay inside the vehicle. Unless instructed otherwise, stay inside your vehicle. Stepping out without being asked could escalate the situation. 7. File a complaint if necessary. If you believe the officer acted improperly, you can file a complaint with the police department. Provide all the details you noted during a THR top. 8. Legal recourse. If the stop led to an unjustified search or violation of your rights, consider consulting with an attorney to explore your legal options. Remember, the goal during a traffic stop is to ensure safety for both you and the officer. Any concerns about the legitimacy of the stop can be addressed through proper channels afterward. When a lawyer investigates a defamation case, they undertake a series of steps to determine whether defamation has occurred and to build a strong case. Here's an outline of the typical process. 1. Initial consultation and case assessment. Understand the client's situation. The lawyer meets with the client to gather detailed information about the allegedly defamatory statements and the circumstances under which they were made. Evaluate harm. The lawyer assesses the impact of the statement on the client's reputation, personal life, and/or business. They will consider whether the harm is significant enough to warrant legal action. 2. Gathering evidence, collecting the statements. The lawyer collects all evidence of the defamatory statements, whether they are in writing, e.g., social media posts, articles, emails, or spoken, e.g., recorded conversations, witness statements. Identifying the source. The lawyer investigates who made the statement, the context in which it was made, and how it was communicated, e.g., online, in print, verbally. 3. Proving falsity, fact-checking the statement. The lawyer investigates whether the statement is false. Truth is a defense to defamation, so the lawyer needs to establish that the statement is untrue or misleading. Expert opinions. If necessary, the lawyer may consult with experts who can provide testimony or evidence that the statement is factually incorrect. 4. Demonstrating harm, assessing damages. The lawyer evaluates the specific damages the client has suffered, such as lost income, business opportunities, emotional distress, or reputational harm. Witness testimony. Documenting the publication. Defamation requires that the statement was published or communicated to a third party. The lawyer gathers evidence showing that the statement was shared with others.